4. It doesn't look that different from before. It actually looks pretty much just like the Surface Pro 3. Design-wise, Microsoft made a couple tweaks. The screen is slightly bigger. It's 12.3 inches now instead of 12 inches. And surprisingly, it's actually in the same size of the display, too. They just removed some of the bezel from around the side of the screen. But the display is sharper now. It's 2763 by 1824. That's a bit better than Quad HD. The actual Surface looks and feels the same, but the type cover is a lot better now. The keys, they stick out a bit more. They have much more feedback. They actually feel a lot like a laptop keyboard. The trackpad is pretty great. It feels just as good as a typical laptop trackpad now, too. It's a glass trackpad, but it feels as smooth as everything we've used before. So it just feels pretty good. And that's a big improvement because on the Surface Pro 3, we had a lot of issues with that. The only unfortunate thing is the type cover, it's great, but it's still separate. So it's another $130. And it's a shame. I wish Microsoft would just start including this with the price. The Surface Pro 4 starts at $899 for the Core M3 version. But I'd also recommend bumping that up to the $999 model for Core i5 just for a bit more power. Overall, this is the most lappable Surface yet from Microsoft. That's just their term for actually holding it on your lap like a traditional laptop. Nothing is different with the hinge this time, but the fact that the keyboard is just a lot more functional makes it feel better. It's stiffer too. I was able to transcribe a 30-minute interview while sitting on a park bench with no extra support. I just had the kickstand on my knee, and I banged the whole thing out in just about the same amount of time it would have taken me with the MacBook Air. And that's surprising because I really like the MacBook Air's keyboard. So that's a huge accomplishment for Microsoft. The other big change this year too is the new Surface Pen. And this one has 1,024 levels of pressure sensitivity. Slightly different design than before. The tip has been improved so that it feels better when you're actually using it on the glass. It actually feels like you're putting pen to paper or pencil to paper. There's also an eraser on the top right now, which works like an eraser. You just put it on the screen and it erases whatever you actually have drawn there. And it still functions as a button. You hit it once and one note pops up. You can start scribbling down notes pretty easily. It's a huge improvement from past Surface Pens, and honestly, it actually feels very useful now. I can actually see many people using this. Microsoft is also making multiple pen tips available too. So if you need different sensitivity for handwriting or for drawing, you'll have different options available to you. Another nice thing about the Surface Pen is it actually sticks to the side of the Surface now rather than being holstered on the keyboard. That means you'll just probably lose it a lot less, and means it's just there and ready for you to use whenever you need it to. Otherwise, the Surface Pro 4, not a huge design upgrade from the Surface Pro 3, but that's fine. I think the Surface Pro 3's design was great. It was more the small things like the keyboard and the maybe slightly cramped screen size. Those are the things that really stuck out for us. Whereas this kind of fixes all those things. It's pretty great. On the hardware side, too, it's running all of Intel's modern core processors. The entry-level Model 1 is a Core M processor, Core M3. There's also Core i5 for $999, and I actually think that's where you should be starting, just power-wise. And on the top end, there's still Core i7 models, but you can actually add up to 16 gigabytes of RAM now and 512 gigabytes of storage. That'll cost you around $2,200. That's a lot of money for a Surface, but that's also a lot of power too, and I know people have been clamoring for that. It also works really well with Windows 10, which is something we also saw with the Surface 4. One thing I really like is Windows Hello, which is Microsoft's fast sign-in option. We haven't been able to test that yet, unfortunately. Microsoft also has another version of the Type keyboard available that's going to have a fingerprint sensor. So the Surface Pro 4 is a lot better as a laptop-like replacement, but still pretty good too as a tablet. Just as the past Surface Pros have been. It's 1.7 pounds, so not much different from before, but still pretty easy to use and hold with one hand. Overall, this is the best Surface we've seen from Microsoft. You know, it's about as portable as a large tablet, but it's just as productive as a typical laptop, and that's a huge accomplishment. Microsoft does seem to be taking a step backwards this year by announcing the Surface Book, which is their big spin on what a future laptop can be. Honestly, though, that's something meant for power users. It's more like the MacBook Pro, whereas the Surface Pro 4 feels more like the MacBook Air. For most people, the Surface Pro 4 will be a fantastic laptop hybrid.